Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Hare Krishna. So we would like to welcome all the devotees for the Sunday morning first canto series. So we are again very fortunate to have His Grace Krpamaya Gauranga with us today. And even last time Prabhu has given a very wonderful class with Govardhan in the background. For those of you who don't know there. So we would like to welcome all of you for the first canto series. And today Prabhuji will continue from the crux of the verse, which is Iti Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, third chapter. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji, over to you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you actually for the introduction. It's short and sweet. Since we don't have too much time, we just have an hour, I want to actually get into the topic directly. I just want to call out one thing. Please make sure that if senior devotees like Satchila Prabhu, Anadi Prabhu, or Vidur Prabhu, or anybody else join, give them the permission to actually talk. When don't mute them completely so that they can unmute themselves.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Let me share my screen. I didn't share it like it. Okay. Thanks again, Prabhu. Thanks for giving this opportunity. I'm audible, Prabhu. Is it okay? No echoing at all?
Yes, Prabhuji, it's perfectly fine.
Okay. So let's get started. First, prayers to the spiritual masters and the acharyas so that we get the confidence and blessings from the previous acharyas to actually talk on this subject matter. But this is actually a very, very grave subject matter. But many of us don't know how grave this subject is, but we still actually try to talk on that. I'm also one of them. So blessings for them. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुवैष्णवां च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादा सगण ललिता श्री विशाखावितांश हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पांचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी त्यामने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Yes, so this is in continuation of the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto series. We are going to talk about chapter 3. Last week we started as Anadi Prabhu, my god brother, actually spoke about Krishna as the source of all incarnation. We'll continue with that and try to complete the chapter today. Quickly glancing on the contents of this particular chapter, the first portion, which is actually about the different Leela avatars and Purusha avatars, Prabhu actually spoke about them. He covered it last week. Here, Sutta Goswami, answering to all the sages, spoke about the different incarnations, the Purusha avatars, how are they actually incarnating into the material world as different Leela, doing different Leelas, different incarnation that they take. And the list went on. And then finally, also in the 23rd verse, it was mentioned that Krishna and Balaram also were part of this avatar list. So he covered everything, which what are the different pastimes. Of course, this is actually not the exhaustive list, but whatever is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, he did cover that. So today we are going to talk about two other portions. The other portion is from 1.3.28 to 1.3.39. It's about who the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right now, we actually saw the Leela avatars. So many were mentioned. That Krishna actually also, it was mentioned that Krishna comes in once in a day of Brahma. So that was also mentioned. And then we'll also talk about Purusha avatar, Virat Purusha, and then the glories of Lord Krishna. And by hearing all these pastimes, what does one actually get? Right? And then finally, there's actually some portion of the shlokas, the last portion, which actually really talks about the Srimad Bhagavatam glories, how it is very, very important to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, and why is it considered as Srila Vyasadev's best gift to humanity. So we'll try to cover all these things in today's class. I hope to actually be able to complete by 11:15, and we'll keep some time for question answers. As usual, keep your questions either in the chat room or keep it at the end. So I will continue with the topic, and then if there are any questions, we'll actually answer it at the end. Okay. So today's shloka, I want to actually spend today's session. I want to spend some time with a very, very, very important shloka. Just as Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as the essence of all the Vedic scriptures, In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 18,000 verses, and out of which this verse, which actually I'm going to talk about, is considered as the emperor verse. Emperor verse means king. Basically, it's actually if somebody asks you which is the most important shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam, this is actually the most important shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? We'll try to understand that. So I want to actually recite the shloka, and maybe actually we'll read the meaning, word to word meaning. We'll spend some time in this particular shloka because this sets the context for the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Ete chamsha kala pumshaha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Let me actually see if we can. This is actually the shloka which we read. The synonyms goes like this: Ete, all these, Cha and Amsha, plenary portions, Kalaha, portions of the plenary portions, Pumsaha, of the Supreme, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Tu, but Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Swayam, in person, Indra Ari, the enemies of Indra, Vyakulam, disturbed, Lokam, all the planets, Mridayanti, gives protection, Yuge, Yuge, in different ages. Translation: all of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Interestingly, so far till the shloka 27, we actually saw different names mentioned, different incarnations like Vaman Dev, Varaha Dev, Mohini Avatar. So many incarnations were mentioned. Krishna Balaram also came in that list. Here in this particular shloka, it's mentioned all the above mentioned incarnations, whatever we have covered so far, are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. That means is expansion from the Lord, Manamsha, or expansions of the expansion. Whatever is expanded, from there some more personalities expand. Such persons, they're all belonging to that category. But Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Krishna's two, Bhagavan Swayam. All of them, why do they appear in this world? Whenever there is actually disturbance caused by the demons. Indra Ari means Indra is actually a demigod, Devata, who actually rules the Swargaloka. Indra Ari means someone who's the enemies of Indra. Enemy of Indra is actually basically the demons, the demons and the demigods, right? So demigods are Devatas, demons are Asuras. So these atheistic people, they create a lot of confusion, a lot of difficulty for other theistic people. The Lord appears here to stop the kind of disturbance caused by the atheistic people. That's why he actually incarnates. But although they all incarnate, Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. Now that's what actually is this particular shloka. This shloka is taken by Srila Jiva Goswami, who is the greatest logician and also one of the chief disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually had 6 main disciples, the Sat Goswamis. Lord actually had given different tasks for each one of them. So he gave Jiva Goswami to actually consolidate all the different scriptures and then write commentaries, which is very, very important for the future generations to understand. And Jiva Goswami wrote or chose this particular shloka as the main shloka or emperor shloka. Basically, he actually had a few factors. He took about 12 different factors to consider why this is actually called as the main shloka. We'll try to see that. In technical terms, it is called the Paribhasha Sutra. This particular shloka, Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsha, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. This particular shloka is called the Paribhasha Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam. What does Paribhasha Sutra mean? This is not mentioned directly in Srila Prabhupada's books. However, this is actually mentioned in the Sat Sandarbhas. The Sandarbhas written by Jiva Goswami. This is mentioned there. He actually proves that this particular shloka is a very, very important shloka. He says, this shloka, from a grammatical perspective, from completeness perspective, it's the most conclusive unambiguous. There's no doubt. You cannot actually twist and turn the meanings to come up with something else. It's not possible. It is declarative about the supremacy of the Lord, and categorically it's establishing that the Supreme Lord is Krishna. The original personality of God, it is Krishna, and everyone else, it would be Vishnu, Purusha avatars, anybody else who actually appears as an incarnation or anybody else, the Supreme Godhead is Krishna. Now, by establishing this, what does it really means? What it really means is the whole Bhagavatam, which actually has 18,000 verses, this sets the context. This will be the main understanding. That means you should read the Bhagavatam with this particular shloka in mind always. Let's get into the details of it. This Paribhasha shloka is normally mentioned in all the Puranas. So this is mentioned only once in the beginning of the book. And this particular shloka or the sutra is taken as the highest priority. It's given the highest preference. Anything else, any other shloka which you see has to be seen through the eyes of this particular shloka. That means if there is shlokas which actually are contradicting with this understanding, then you change that shloka, tweak it to make sure that it actually makes sense to this particular to make sure that this particular shloka is actually correct. That's how it is mentioned. That is called the Paribhasha Sutra. So now you'll actually see what are the. I will also give you examples of from. I'm going to talk about whatever Jiva Goswami has mentioned. Is nothing of my creation. It's very, very interesting to actually read this acharyas, how much actually they spend time to make us understand these shastras. Now, he actually has taken 12 major principles and he explains that. And then he also gives examples for each one of them. Now, the first example or first point is basically consistency. He says this is all basically from those who are very conversant with reading the shastras, who are reading the Vedas. They have this language very, very common. They understand this very, very common. For us, we'll be wondering why did he actually use all these things and things like that. But it is basically based on the Shastric personalities when they actually argue on the different Vedic scriptures. How do they actually converse? So it's all based on that. These are little technical, but then we'll be able to understand it. It's not that it's not a rocket science. It's easy to understand. So what Jiva Goswami says is that from the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.1 and 1.3.28, which is this shloka, in both the shlokas, the opening and concluding statements of the composition, right, matches with each other. What does it mean? Even in the first shloka, as well as in this shloka, there is a Purusha and Bhagavan mentioned, right, in both the places. In the first shloka, what it means is, let me see if I have it open. I think I should be having it. Okay. The first shloka is this 1.3.1. It says, Suta Uvacha, Jagre Paurusham Rupam, Bhagavan Mahadadibihi, Sambhutam Shodashakalam, Ado Loka Sisrikshaya. What it means is, Suta said, in the beginning of the creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation. That means there was a Lord already, some Lord, okay? He expanded as Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating the material universes. That means the Lord is already there and there are Purusha incarnations being generated. Now here in this particular shloka, the same thing, Ete Chamsha Kala Pumsha. That means there are a lot of incarnations coming in the list. Krishna's too, that means Krishna is not a part of that particular list. Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan himself. The same thing. Here, in this particular words, we may not actually have the word Purusha. Ete Chamsha Kala Pumsha. Pumsha really means same thing, same understanding as Purusha. So Bhagavatam as a whole also starts with the same thing. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That is the first shloka. And the end of Srimad Bhagavatam also, if you see, there is actually a shloka which actually talks only about Krishna. So there is consistency in this explanation. So it is actually mentioned that Krishna is the Supreme Lord here. The next point he mentions is reconciliation, saying that although the 3.23 talks that Krishna is incarnation, but 1.3.28 actually is coming in the end. So that has to be given more preference. It is just like in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna mentions many shlokas in spite of mentioning many shlokas, finally he says Sarva Dharman Parityaja Maham Ekam Sharanam Raja. That's actually the ultimate. That's actually the end. Whatever comes in the end, that means that's more important than the previous ones. Similarly, the same logic is actually applied here. That Krishna, although is mentioned as incarnation in 2.3, in 2.8, he is mentioned as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not just Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is also the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like Anandi Prabhu mentioned, just like you have a candle, you have 100 candles and one candle is lit. This candle is actually going to light other candles. Although all the candles actually can give the same brightness, still this original candle actually is very important. And that original candle is considered as Krishna from expansion perspective. So he gives this particular argument. Next is actually the distinction of why this shloka actually has the word tu. Why does it say tu? Tu means but. It divides the sentence into two. That means I say something, example, okay, all cars are good, but something else means something like just all cars are good, Rolls-Royce is but Rolls-Royce is the best. Meaning Rolls-Royce should not be a part of this. It's something else. It may be actually there in the list of cars, but then it stands out. Similarly here, although there are incarnation, Krishna is mentioned as incarnation, Krishna is also the original Swayam Bhagavan. He is the Supreme Person of Godhead. One aspect we have to understand is in every Dwapar Yuga, Krishna does appear. He comes every time. But the original Supreme Person of Godhead appears only once in a day of Brahma. That is this Krishna they're talking about. Other times, sometimes Kshirodakshaya Vishnu or mostly Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he incarnates as Krishna. And there is all the Leelas except, I mean, the Vrindavan Leela doesn't take place. Everything else actually takes place. The Mahabharata, all these things actually takes place. So this is actually mentioned elsewhere in the Shastras. Now, the next aspect he considers philosophy. Jiva Goswami mentions it's more important to actually consider philosophical statement as authoritative than the historical events which actually takes place. He gives an example about the Paribhasha Sutra is like a king. King cannot be a beggar, right? King has to be qualified. It actually has some qualification that everyone else actually accepts that person as actually the leader. Now everyone has to obey the meaning of this particular shloka across Srimad Bhagavatam. But you will find in a lot of places actually the shloka directly says that Vishnu is the supreme. Okay. However, our acharyas actually have got a different meaning out of it and saying that no, Krishna is actually the supreme, Vishnu is actually Amsha of Krishna. So this explanation is basically because of this particular Paribhasha Sutra. Once this is declared, then everything else has to be seen from this perspective. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. So the next point he actually considers is actually contradictions. Apparent contradictions, there are many actually in many verses, many scriptures. It is mentioned that somebody else is supreme and things like that. But because this is actually the Paribhasha Sutra, other shlokas needs to be actually corrected to align with this particular sutra. Now, giving an example in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, in the 10th canto, you will find that there is a story wherein Krishna and Arjuna actually visits Mahavishnu in the Vaikuntha planets. Krishna takes Arjuna to Mahavishnu to show this pastime. I'm not going to talk about the pastime, but then what really happens is a Brahmana is there, and then Arjuna wants to actually protect his children, but unfortunately Mahavishnu steals those children in order to see Krishna. So he invites Krishna and Arjuna there, and Krishna goes there to meet Mahavishnu. In that particular shloka, it appears like Amshena, that is Krishna Amshena is actually mentioned, meaning Krishna's literal meaning is that Krishna is actually an Amsha of Mahavishnu, kind of, he visits Mahavishnu. But our acharyas actually have explained it in a very different way. They are saying that Amshena really means Krishna actually contains all the other Amshas, and with all the Amshas, he goes and meets Mahavishnu. So it appears like actually they were taken a different meaning out of the shloka. That is done basically because that's how it has to be done across the particular scripture. Now, there's one more what do you call this example. There are many examples there. I'm just taking a few examples. It is mentioned that in Mahabharata that from Mahavishnu's Kesha, that is hair, Krishna and Balaram actually appear. Now, interestingly, this particular explanation, the Acharyas, especially Jiva Goswami, says that Kesha really means the effulgence and not the hair, right? It's from Krishna Balaram's effulgence, actually, Vishnu actually comes. So he gives a completely different meaning. Why? Because you have to actually lead the king. The king has to be kept as at the top, and all the other personalities actually has to follow them. So this is actually the explanation given. That is why you'll find in the Bhagavatam when you read, you need to keep this in mind. If you do not know this, then you'll always wonder like, why is Srila Prabhupada translating this sloka in some other way? What is the reason actually? Sometimes Atma is considered as the Supreme Lord. Atma is also considered as the body. So many meanings are there, but all the meanings actually has to agree with this particular shloka, right? And there are also so many compliments which are actually in this particular in the Srimad Bhagavatam which support this Paribhasha Sutra, saying that Krishna definitely is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there's no doubt about it, right? Um, there are in the 10th canto is full of Krishna's supremacy being discussed. The 9 cantos talks about different aspects, slowly different incarnations of the Lord, the pastimes actually is explained. But in each canto, there is definitely actually explanation that the Supreme Lord is Krishna in some way or other, in a hidden way or something. But our acharyas actually have made it very clear. Now, Jiva Goswami says that Sridhara Swami also confirms that Krishna is the Supreme Person of Godhead. Now, we will be wondering like, why is Jiva Goswami actually talking about Sridhara Swami? Because Sridhara Swami actually is not an ordinary soul. It's mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes one shloka that Lord Shiva tells to Parvati Devi. He says, it's taken from some Purana, I don't remember it off my head. He says, Lord Shiva says, I know Srimad Bhagavatam, Shuka knows Srimad Bhagavatam, Sridhara Swami also knows Srimad Bhagavatam, but Vyasadeva knows Bhagavatam or not, that I don't know. So it's very, very interesting to know Lord Shiva actually mentioning like that the concept of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Shiva knows it, what is happening there, because he's being a Mahajana and the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu, he knows that. Shukadev Goswami is speaking in Bhagavatam, so he knows that. And Lord Shiva mentions about Sridhar Swami also, that Sridhar Swami also knows that, I know that. But Vyasadev knows Bhagavatam or not. Vyasadev is the one who actually compelled this. Still, he knows or not, that I don't know. He says that. It's not that Vyasadev does not know. It's just to actually put a word in a way that Sridhar Swami is actually not an ordinary person. So Sridhar Swami is confirming that Krishna is the original Supreme Person of Godhead, is actually taken as a verdict in the Shastras, and Jiva Goswami says that. He repeats it again. Now, the 7th factor that Jiva Goswami talks about is actually the principal subject of this particular Purana. Krishna's glories is described across all the chapters. And then in the 12th cantos, there are 335 chapters. And the 10th and 11th, 10th actually is about 90 chapters, and then the 11th actually is about 35 chapters, I think, 30 chapters. So the 10th and 11th canto is exclusively talking about Krishna's glories and then his messages and things like that directly. So 120 of the 335 chapters is talking about Krishna, and every canto also talks some portion of Krishna, that although they are incarnations, but Krishna is the Supreme Person of Godhead. So principal subject of Srimad Bhagavatam, if somebody asks about what is Bhagavad Purana talking about, it's actually about Krishna. Krishna is the main subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is something that we have to understand. And it's very, very loud and clear on that. The 8th point that actually takes, 8th factor that he takes is that the common interest of all the speakers in Srimad Bhagavatam. We know that the sages of Naimisharanya is actually nominating Shaunaka Rishi. Shaunaka Rishi is calling Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami is actually quoting from Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami is quoting from Maitreya Rishi. Like that, multiple people actually are stating what is happening. And all of them actually are very, very, very eager to hear about Krishna and glorify Krishna directly. Because Sutta Goswami is talking about Krishna. Shukadev Goswami is talking about Krishna. Maitreya Rishi also is actually talking about Krishna to Vidura Mahatma. And Maharaj Parikshit, Vidura and Shaunaka Rishi, these are the audiences, right? They are hearing from these authoritative speakers. And all of them are eager to hear more about Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit is actually asking more about Krishna, because Krishna was my actually the my grandfather's, that's Arjuna's very dear friend, what did he do, and things like that. He's specifically asking about Krishna. All of them are having the same common interest, that they want to glorify and hear about Krishna. That's a factor it takes. And then, of course, in the 1.7.6 and 7, those two shlokas, if you see, Vyasadeva actually directly mentioned that the main subject of this Purana is Krishna himself. He actually directly writes it as a sentence there, right? So that's a pramana that's taken by Jiva Goswami and says that these all have common interest. The ninth factor he takes is that the substitute. What does it mean is Srimad Bhagavatam is actually considered as one of the forms of Sri Krishna, just like Sri Krishna's one of the avatars is Lord Rama. One of the avatars is actually Narsingadev. So like this. So there are different incarnations who are all from Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is also considered as one of the forms of Sri Krishna. This you will actually see. I will talk about this as we go along, because it's in the 1.3.43, which is part of our session today. It's mentioned that when Krishna left, this was a question that the sages had actually asked, that when Krishna left, where did the religion take shelter of? That Srimad Bhagavatam is actually Krishna himself who has actually come in the form of a book, right? So he actually is the sun, which is going to give the light to this the conditioned souls. So he mentions that. So Bhagavatam is actually a substitute for Krishna directly. Then he also mentions about the holy name, that no other holy name of Vishnu or Krishna equals to Krishna. And he quotes various examples, and one of the example he says is, if you chant once Krishna's name is equal to actually the effect of chanting 3,000 names of other names of Krishna, like the Vishnu Sahasranama or Lord Rama's name. You chant everything, but Krishna's name, even if you chant once, the effect will be equal to 3,000 times we actually chant. That means when you chant Krishna's name once, one full Vishnu Sahasranama is just 1,000 times. So 3 times you chant is equal to just once chanting Krishna's name. That powerful the holy name of Krishna is. That's mentioned. And again, one of the examples he gives in the Prabhasa Purana, Lord Krishna himself tells this to Arjuna, saying that of all the names, Krishna is the most prominent and most important, I would say, Arjuna. So that's what he says. There are many examples that, because of time, actually, I'm cutting it short. But it's good to know, if you can get time, if you are studious, read the Sat Sandarbhas, actually it gives you, or you can actually read the Bhagavata Subodhini by the devotees from Vada forms, such as the Bhaktivedanta Vidyapith. Then you'll actually learn a lot more there. Okay. The 11th factor that he takes is actually the reconfirmation, that in other literatures also it's mentioned that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. We can see that that example is also given in Bhagavad Gita and other places, right? Vedesha sarver aham eva vedyaha. Of all the Vedas, I am to be known, Krishna mentions. And then in Brahma Samhita, the many shlokas, one of the shlokas is Ramadi Murtishu Khala Niyamena Tishta Nanavataram Akrod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paraman Pumanyo. Even in Brahma Samhita, which is told by Brahma, Ramadi Murtishu means like Rama, Narsimha, Varaha, they are all actually expansions of the Lord. But Krishna Swayam Samabhavat, that means Krishna himself is the supreme person of God. Govinda Madi Purusham Tamham Bhajami. That Govinda, that Krishna is what I am worshipping, what Brahmaji says. So like that, Jiva Goswami has actually refuted a lot of points, and then to prove that Krishna is the supreme person of Godhead, the original supreme person of Godhead. And again, in Srimad Bhagavatam and in the scriptures, these two aspects actually is confirmed again and again. That is, Krishna is having an eternal form. It is not that he is Brahmajyoti is the highest, and from Brahmajyoti Krishna comes. No, Krishna is the supreme person of Godhead, and Krishna actually has eternal form. This is confirmed again and again within Bhagavatam and in other scriptures too. So he quotes a lot of examples on that to prove this point. So these are the 12 factors he says. And then looking at, of course, Bhagavad Gita is another example, that Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. That example is given. Arjuna says, whatever you have said, I'm actually accepting it as truth. I understand that you are the supreme person of Godhead Krishna. Thank you so much. So he actually thanks the Lord for actually being his friend. So even our own acharyas, all our acharyas in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, they, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas, they have reconfirmed that Krishna is the supreme, original supreme person of Godhead in all their writings. There's no question or no doubt about that in all the Sampradaya writings. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who actually compiled the whole, who wrote the complete Chaitanya Charitamrita, in that also he, I think in the second chapter of Adilila, 1.2, second chapter, he proves that Krishna is the Supreme Person of Godhead from various ways, in various different ways, comparing him with Vishnu and then personalities like that, and including Lord Shiva. He compares everything and then proves that Krishna is the Supreme Person of Godhead. And he finally says that that same Krishna is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's no difference at all. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna and not an incarnation of Krishna. There's no difference between Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna himself. So he's the Supreme Person of Godhead. He proves like that, and then he covers, states that this is the Paribhasha Sutra, and everyone accepts it like that. So we can understand that how we have it's proven. So from now on, actually always have this particular thing in mind. Ede Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishna Su Bhagavan Swayam. Anywhere else you actually see somebody else is actually mentioned as the Supreme Person of Godhead, refute it with this particular shloka. No, this is confirmed. This is what it is. So that's how the acharyas have actually gone ahead and then taken it. Right. So so that's actually the point I want to actually mention. Now, now that we actually had all the different incarnations mentioned, the spiritual world is actually explained, I want to actually quote a small a small example what really happened. This particular thing happened, last time happened in ISKCON in 1970s. In a place called Vatsika Avenue. There's a temple in ISKCON, Los Angeles. The deities are actually Rukmini Dwarkadish. In this particular temple, a lot of activities are going. Actually, the whole book distribution marathon is actually running right now. The whole book distribution started in Los Angeles and San Francisco. You'll find that it's a very interesting episode. Here, because of a lot of activities, there was a temple commander, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, who was a very, very dear disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And because he was actually the kind of temple commander, he used to tell people what they need to do and things like that. So he was pushing a lot on people, and then devotees were actually getting little fried, saying that, why is he demanding me to do this and that and things like that? And they all went and complained to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada one day called him, come here to my room. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj went to his room. So when he went to his room, Srila Prabhupada actually called him, go and get the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he went to, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was wondering, why is Prabhupada actually calling me for telling me something? I have so many things to do. Why is he calling me to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam? He brought the Srimad Bhagavatam copy. So Srila Prabhupada actually held this cover of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this cover actually is like a fantastic view of the spiritual world and the creation. Prabhupada actually started explaining, if you see in the creation, the center of creation is actually the Goloka Vrindavan, where Radha and Krishna and his associates actually having the pastimes. There are millions and billions of small universes, which are actually small planetary systems, which are actually like the Vaikuntha planets. Different forms of the Lord actually reside there in Vaikuntha planets. And then one small portion, in one small portion, you'll find that see this, there is a small, very, very small area which is called the material world. In that material world, there is actually Karanodakshaya Vishnu. From Karanodakshaya Vishnu's pores, there are a lot of planets actually coming out, or universes coming out. So these universes actually coming from the pores of Karanodakshaya Vishnu. So when they come out in each universes, there is actually Garbhodakshaya Vishnu entering, which we saw all these things in the last session. So Prabhupada actually started explaining all these things. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was confused. Okay, he's explaining something, let me hear. So as it went on, he explained everything. And then in those planetary systems, in one of the universes, there is 14 planetary systems. In that, there is the Earth planet. And in that Earth planet, there are many continents. There are seven continents. And out of so many continents, there is one continent called North America. In that one North America continent, there is a city or a state called California. In that California, there are many places. Los Angeles is one of them. In Los Angeles, there are so many streets, so many houses, and so many buildings available. So many people are living. In that particular city, there is a road called Vatsika Avenue. In that Vatsika Avenue, there are so many buildings and so many people living. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was wondering, like, what is going to happen now? So as it went on, he said, in that particular road, there is one place, which is the ISKCON temple. In that ISKCON temple, there are many rooms and so many devotees actually living. In so many rooms, there is one room. In that one room, there is one Tamal Krishna. and he thinks he's very important. Then Maharaj was like, wow, this is too much for me to take. He said, like, we are insignificant in this creation. We should never think that actually we are driving everything in this world. The creation is actually depending on me and things like that. So this kind of a misunderstanding we should never have. We should understand and then completely surrender to the Supreme Lord and have faith on their own. If people actually think that, okay, every path is the same, so let me actually lead a little bit of that, little bit of that, you will never come to any conclusion. We have to utterly completely surrender only to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Only then we have some hope of understanding the goal of life. Otherwise, punarapi jananam punarapi maranam. So Prabhupada was actually conveying this point. He made that we are completely insignificant in this creation. So this was the example that Prabhupada was using, the practically what's happening, and then trying to communicate the point of discussion, right? So it's very interesting. Like this, Prabhupada used to actually spend a lot of time explaining the Shastras based on what we see around. Okay, so we saw this whole the Purushas and everyone. What we missed was actually the Virat Purusha, the Virat Rupa or Vishwa Rupa, as most of the South Indians actually call it as. The Vishwa Rupa was missed out in the incarnations list, basically because of the reason that Vishwa Rupa is not an eternal form. It's an imaginary material form created for materialistic people who cannot believe that there's actually a spiritual form of God and things like that. It's very difficult for them to actually contemplate. So they made sure that he makes sure that this is actually taken. This particular aspect of Virat Rupa is actually mentioned in this. The shloka 30 to 34 talks about Vishwarupa and how materialistic people actually will start meditating, or it's easy for them to actually concentrate on that form. That means the sun, moon, all these things is put into a kind of a form like a human being or the Lord. That's called the Vishwarupa, because the Supreme Lord doesn't have any material form. The Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. We actually have a material form, and within that we actually have a spiritual form there. But we have to understand one thing. He actually gives example in the Bhagavatam, gives example about when you say the sky is cloudy or the air is dirty. This is not true actually, because air itself is actually not dirty. Air actually carries the dirt, or the sky actually carries the dust and becomes cloudy. As such, air is not actually dirty. So similarly, when you actually impose some form, saying that this is how it is, that actually form is imposing matter on spirit is not the right thing. So he mentions examples around that. It's more for technicality. He also gives about, just like we actually have a human body, the body which is actually a gross body, then a subtle body, then the soul is existing. Similarly, the entire creation or the material creation actually has gross body, then a subtle body, then there is actually the spirit, and that spirit of the universal form is the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Is actually the main person, is what is actually explained. Then this is a very, very interesting point in the purport of one of the shlokas from 130 to 134. Actually, I picked up that. Why? Because it gives us a glimpse of what is expected by Srila Prabhupada. He says self-realization means transcending the needs of gross and subtle bodies and focusing only on the needs of the self. When you realize this, you can see yourself and the Lord simultaneously. We'll be able to see the Lord only when you come to this stage, that we need to actually start ignoring the needs of gross and subtle bodies. We may not be there right now. We can't ignore. When you're hungry, we cannot say that, no, I can't. You can see Parikshit Maharaj, how he, for 7 days and 7 nights, he did not sleep. He did not actually have any food. He was just sitting there and hearing the Lord. This level is not easy for us to actually come in. But then when you come to that stage, by the mercy of the Lord, then you can see the Lord. Till then, keep chanting Hare Krishna. So he also explains some more. He gives us more examples. The next shloka talks about the illusory energy will subside. The living entity will become fully enriched with knowledge of the grace, by the grace of the Lord. When you actually come to that stage, then we'll be able to achieve perfection. That means we need to actually put some effort. By default or by natural lifestyle, we will not be able to actually go back to Godhead. One has to actually really struggle and then put focus on this, understanding that body and the gross body and material body or the subtle body needs actually are not very important. One has to focus on that. Only then we'll be able to get into that the perfection stage of existence. Then in the 35 to 39 shlokas, what is the way to understand the Lord? some glories of the Lord, and how do I attain the Lord? What is the process of attaining the Lord? That's actually mentioned. He also mentions, Vyasadeva mentioned that it's very, very difficult to understand the Lord's activities and appearance. If you, especially he's talking about Krishna, because we understand that last month was a Damodar month. In that month, Damodar is Krishna himself, the original person of God, Krishna, because the Vrindavan Leela, it is not done by the Krishna who comes from Kshirodakshaya Vishnu or Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. No, it's actually the Supreme Person of God in the original form. He cries because he's actually feeling very bad that Mother Yashoda is going to hit him and things like that. So it's very, very difficult because he's the Supreme Person of Godhead. Everyone else is scared of him. Still, he's actually afraid of his own mother, looking at the stick that mother is carrying. So these are very difficult to understand for any layman. Pure devotees appreciate it, but then Vyasadeva mentioned that it's not easy for common men to actually understand these things. The Lord is extremely powerful and he's controller of all the six senses, and he actually has six opulences in full. And he's also creator, maintainer, and destroyer of the entire material universe, all the material universes. But although he does all these activities, he's completely unaffected. He doesn't get affected at all. We are not like that. When you actually create something, you do something, you have some attachment. You create something and somebody actually takes and throw it to the garbage. Imagine you're cooking a nice feast and then somebody comes and then throws the entire thing into the garbage. You will get affected, like, what is happening here? Why are you doing this? He is not affected about anything in the material creation. Is completely detached from what's happening in the material creation, right? Then he gives examples about Vyasadeva actually talks about the same thing. That is basically, this is quoted by Sutta Goswami. I'm talking about Vyasadeva because of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Less intelligent persons, Prabhupada calls it as, cannot understand the name, form, activities of the Lord. Just by actually reading these things, you will not be able to understand the Lord's pastimes or form. It's very confusing because if he's the Supreme Lord, why is he crying? If he's the Supreme Lord, why is he actually going and dancing with the gopis? If he's self-satisfied, what is he actually looking for? Why is he actually coming and asking the devotees, offer me patram, pushpam, phalam, toyam? Why is he actually asking these things? It's a very, very difficult to understand for common people. Because if the Supreme Lord, he should be satisfied and he should be in his own world. Why is he coming and interacting with us? So those kind of questions keeps coming. But the Bhagavatam says, if you want to actually attain such a Lord, it's possible only for a few people. Who are those? Those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service to the lotus feet of the Lord. When they do this, then they can understand. That means only on Sundays I will listen about the Lord. Only on Sundays I will chant Hare Krishna. When I have time, I will chant the holy name of the Lord. And then I'm busy today. Can I actually attend the session next week? This kind of interrupted kind of devotion service or will not actually take us anywhere. It may make us some movement, but then you cannot know Krishna at all. One has to actually completely dedicate his life in unreserved way. That means, Krishna, only if you give me this, I will do this. That cannot be the case. Whether he actually is taking care of us or not taking care of us, we are throwing us into under the bus. Still, I will always worship him. I will always accept him as the Supreme Person of Godhead. When someone actually is in that kind of consciousness and always willing to serve the Lord, then one can start knowing the Lord fully, right? To the capacity that we can really know. Now, in the couple of other shlokas in 38 and 39, Prabhupada mentions a fantastic point, a very, very, very difficult for us to understand how these acharyas' minds are working. How are they actually writing this commentary? So wonderfully they're actually writing. It's like Prabhupada mentioned that these writings are all my personal ecstasies. Prabhupada mentioned, sincere hearing from the pure devotee will invoke transcendental ecstatic love for the Lord. And this will guarantee immunity from birth and death. If you keep hearing, but this hearing has to be sincere. There are various aspects mentioned here. Sincere hearing. Sincere really means that we have to be repentative of whatever sinful activity we have done in the past, because all of us in the material world have done some sinful activities. If not in this life, in the previous life, we have done. So we should be repenting that I made this, my Lord. I didn't understand this. Why did I ever make it? If you keep repenting in that way and not commit the same sinful activities again, side by side, one should also follow tapas. Tapas means chanting the 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra every day. following the 4 regulative principles and avoiding the Vaishnava prads and Nama prads, when you actually do all those things, side by side, you actually hear from a pure devotee of the Lord, then that will invoke transcendental ecstatic love, that you'll feel like crying for the Lord. All the ecstatic symptoms which actually is mentioned in the Shastras will start actually appearing in the person of the devotee. And when you come to that stage, it will definitely guarantee you that you will not take another birth. That's actually the mentioned. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. This aspect is a very important aspect to understand. That how does the pure devotee do it? It's mentioned the pure devotee has Lord Krishna in the lotus of his heart. And whenever you say lotus, they consider there is actually saffron particles. When the pure devotee of the Lord remembering the Lord's lotus feet and then talks about the glories of the Lord, these saffron particles will actually rise to his mouth, and from his mouth it actually go into the ears of the hearers who are actually raptly hearing all this, all the Harikatha. They are actually hearing the Lord's glories. That will get into the heart of the hearer, the devotees of the Lord who are sincere, and it will actually invoke this same effect that actually the pure devotee is having for the Lord. Similar kind of transcendental ecstatic symptoms will start appearing. That love will start appearing in the heart of the hearer. It's very amazing actually, how they have, when you say lotus feet and then the saffron particles going out and then entering into the heart of the hearer, and that's how actually it agitates the heart, purifies it, and brings in that kind of love that normally we don't have in the material world, right? Sometimes, I mean, the modern scientific minded people always think, okay, will this work in Zoom? It will work. Don't raise any support cases that it's not working for me. It will work. We just have that faith in the Lord, that the Lord says like this, it will happen someday. We just have to continue the process of Krishna consciousness given by Srila Prabhupada. Now, the last 4 shlokas or 5 shlokas in Srimad Bhagavatam, the 3rd chapter, talks about the glories of Bhagavatam. How did Bhagavatam actually come in the parampara? Vyasadeva wrote all these things, so it talks about that. So here, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as a literary incarnation of God. So how do you consider, if Krishna has to become a book, that book is actually Srimad Bhagavatam. If the Supreme Lord has to become a book form, that book form is actually Srimad Bhagavatam. And Vyasadev's gift it is, Srila Vyasadev's gift for the entire humanity, for their ultimate good. It is all successful, blissful, and perfect. It's mentioned that the Srimad Bhagavatam is so powerful, it will always be successful, in the sense wherever Srimad Bhagavatam is there, it will make that person's house for sure successful. When you say successful, it doesn't mean that, okay, will I win a lottery of 50 lakhs? Not like that. It will make them successful in the life mission of going back to Godhead. All successful, all blissful, and all perfect. When you hear more and more about Krishna, your attachment for this material world actually disappears, and eventually you'll come to a stage you will not want anything else except Krishna. So that power Srimad Bhagavatam actually has, it can give it to us. And Srila Vyasadeva, what did he do? He actually extracted all this essence of all the scriptures, all the historical Puranas and everything. He actually took Vedas, he took. He's the one who compiled everything. So from that, he took the cream, and that cream, he gave it to his son, that is Shukadeva Goswami, right? And Shukadeva Goswami actually took that and assimilated it completely. And after doing that, he passed it on. Whom did he pass it on to? He passed it on to Parikshit Maharaj. That's actually the beginning of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll start hearing that Shukadeva Goswami spoke the whole Bhagavatam to King Parikshit. And here, this is the best combination to actually have. Whenever Srimad Bhagavatam has to be very effective, this is the best. Anything else will be a little less effective. Shukadeva Goswami is a renunciant, completely renounced from this material world. He's not attached at all to the material world, and he's come to the stage of being a spiritual master. And Parikshit Maharaj is renounced everything, his land, his wife, his family, his kingdom, everything. He's ready to accept the spiritual master, and he's actually, with rapt attention, he's going to hear from Shukadeva Goswami. So if this combination is there, if the speaker is actually completely authoritative and coming in the parampara, and then you give representing the whole parampara, and the hearer, the audience, the person who's actually hearing the speaker is of this nature, that I'm ready to accept whatever the spiritual master is going to tell me. If you are in that kind of mentality, then the Bhagavatam will be very, very, very effective. You'll get the result the shortest time. Parikshit Maharaj got it in 7 days. He was able to actually come to that conclusion and then surrender to the Supreme Lord completely. So we can also achieve that. And this answer, the next shloka, the 43, is a very, very important shloka again. It talks about, it's one of the answers to the sage's question, because one of the questions that sages asked is, after Krishna left this planet, where did religion take shelter of? Where did the whole dharma actually take shelter of? For that, here Sutta Goswami explains that Bhagavata Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, is as brilliant as the sun. Just like when Krishna actually left, the whole dharma took shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself, is as brilliant as the sun, and especially in this age of Kali, where people are in complete darkness, this particular Purana will give them the light. When we are in complete distress, completely confused, the world leaders actually have no clue. This is the Purana they need to actually really read, because this is actually the essence of entire Vedic wisdom, including all the acharyas, and especially Srila Prabhupada has compiled all this different acharyas commentaries and given us in a very, very, very easy manner that we can understand this. So he mentioned this. This is actually the one of the answers to the sage's question, that Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it's taken the form of Krishna basically. Bhagavata Purana is replacing Krishna in the material world in the age of Kali. Then final shloka, that is the 44th shloka, Sutta Goswami actually mentions, I heard this with rapt attention. He did not hear just like, oh, okay, I was just watching my WhatsApp message and think. No, he was fully focused on what Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadeva Goswami were discussing. And he learned that Bhagavatam, he says, by Shukadeva Goswami's mercy, Shukadeva Goswami is not showing mercy only to Parikshit Maharaj. He actually showed to all the hearers. All the hearers who are actually there, sincerely hearing from Shukadeva Goswami, got the message of Bhagavatam very, very clear. So Sutta Goswami mentioned that I heard the whole Bhagavatam. I learned the whole Bhagavatam very clearly from Shukadeva Goswami, and I assimilated it. I realized it, and after I realizing, I'm going to explain it to you, all of you now. That's where it ends actually. The third chapter, that Sutta Goswami says that I did this because of the mercy of Shukadeva Goswami. I'm able to actually really explain this to all of you. So that is actually the end of that. Now I want to actually summarize this portion, right? What all did we really learn? There are many points that we learned today. See, one of the aspect I want to actually mention here in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam should not be heard from people who are materialistic. People who actually are these professional reciters. They actually sing some songs, then they explain certain things and things like that. Devotees can also do it, but then they do it for profession, for making money. If you are in that kind of aspect and that kind of attitude, you should not hear. And the Acharya, especially Sanatana Goswami, actually mentions Srimad Bhagavatam is as clean and as pure as milk. Milk is very nourishing. But if the milk is actually touched by the lips of a serpent, a snake actually touches or licks the milk, then it becomes poisonous. And such milk is very dangerous for the health. Similarly, these people who are actually professional reciters, or those who actually are reciting the Bhagavatam for the sake of, it's just more like a way of living to make money and then just live like that. There are people of this kind. If you hear from them, it will sound very nice, but you will not get any love for the Supreme Lord. You'll think it's again some pastime stories or some bedtime stories that you can hear and then repeat. This does not actually help us. So one has to be very, very careful that one find the bona fide personality coming in the disciplic succession and hear from such a person. And by hearing from such a person, you will also actually attain the same wealth, right? One time in Bombay, one of the rich life members came to Srila Prabhupada, and he was having this question. He asked Srila Prabhupada, he didn't say Srila Prabhupada, he said Swamiji, Swamiji, is it not important actually to feed people, give them some good clothing, cure diseases, and this, rather than all this book distribution or giving this knowledge to others and things like that? Srila Prabhupada actually heard this, and then he responded back to him. He said, imagine you have a friend, and you have a rich friend, and the rich friend's son is lost. And when you actually go to one local market somewhere, you find that this boy is actually begging and sitting on the road, and then eating all filthy garbage and things like that. I mean, water is left out by people, he's actually taking and thinking. You see this boy and then say, I know this boy. Actually, this boy belongs to such and such a family. He's very, very rich. Now, what would you do with this boy? would you actually go and give him some 100 rupees or 500 rupees and then buy him some clothes and give him and then say how are you and things like that? Or you will actually go and say, hey, you don't recognize yourself, you need to understand that you're actually the son of so and so, I will take you to that person, please come. So you'll actually carry that person to your friend's house so that he doesn't have to suffer like this, because he's a son of a very rich man. That's exactly Sri Prabhupada said. That's what I'm trying to do. All of us in the creation, all the human beings, all the living entities actually are Supreme Lord's children. Now we have forgotten completely that this whole thought actually is gone, that we belong to the Supreme Lord. We think we are born here. This is my father, this is my mother, this is my family, this is my spouse. We actually are living in this world in such kind of a misconcepted understanding. So if you continue to live like that, it's just like that beggar actually staying there, and people coming and giving money and going is same. But instead, if we can realize that I don't belong to this world, I belong to the Supreme Lord, and I need to get back there. Don't waste my time here too much. That's the best welfare activity you can ever do. Giving this knowledge of Bhagavatam, giving the knowledge of Krishna to others is the most benevolent sacrifice or activities that you can do. It's far, far, far better than even becoming an army person. Army is also doing a fantastic job in protecting us, but this is way, way, way beyond that activity. So one has to actually have understanding of this very clearly. So that is actually the effect of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. When you hear from the what do you call, the pure acharya, pure devotee of the Lord, when hearing these things again and again, will make us understand that I belong to that place and I don't belong to this place. And then you start moving towards the action. Prabhupada explained this to that person, and that person understood, okay, what Prabhupada is doing is actually a magnanimous activity, that it cannot be imitated by ordinary people. Yeah. But Prabhupada did actually give all of us a chance to distribute his books, share this knowledge with others and things like that. Now, coming to the summary, I hope actually you're on time. Yeah, okay, I can complete it. Prabhupada actually, Jiva Goswami actually proved that this particular shloka, that is Ete Chamsha Kalapumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, is basically the Paribhasha Sutra, and we need to understand it's the king of all the verses. Everything else has to be actually understood based on this particular verse. He proved that. And then we also learned about the Virat Rupa, how it's actually one of the forms of the material universe, imaginary form seen like that. And it's for less intelligent people. We don't have to break our head. Those who cannot focus on Krishna, serving Krishna, and they are extremely materialistic, very, very, very rare. And such kind of people actually will imagine the Virat Rupa. And someday they will actually come to a stage of understanding there is something spiritual. Then they'll be able to worship. Because for a normal person, how can actually spirit will be formless? How will I actually be able to meditate on something which is formless and things like that? There are a lot of confusions that materialistic people will have. For them, understand that okay, the world creation is actually the supreme. See that perspective. Yeah. Then we also spoke about the self-realization process. Self-realization means transcend the needs of bodily, that is gross and material, or the subtle bodies, and then focus on the needs of the soul, which is actually devotional service to the Lord. Then very, very important aspect, sincere hearing from the pure devotee. When I say sincere has two aspects. One, stop committing sinful activities, and then repent for whatever sinful activities we have done in the past, and also do the tapas. Tapas is basically the austerity of chanting Hare Krishna. I don't like to chant Hare Krishna, but I still have to get up early in the morning and chant Hare Krishna 16 rounds, and follow the four regulative principles of no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no intoxication. If you do it and keep hearing, definitely we'll come to a stage wherein you'll be able to see the Lord face to face and then enter the kingdom of God. Then the aspect about Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself in the book form, ultimately successful. It brings all perfection for once in the life. And then when anybody who keeps the Bhagavatam, whole set of Bhagavatam in any language at home, will bring in complete auspiciousness in life. We may not actually see 10 years down the line, you'll actually see. It doesn't not that okay, I bring in, because we are in that jet age, okay, I take the tablet and eat immediately, actually I have to get cured. This is not actually the way it works. The human body time constant is very different. So when you actually bring in Bhagavatam, it will take some time. But if you keep reading again and again, naturally you will start actually getting Krishna into your heart. And then all sarva samshaya, whatever doubts we have so far, whatever doubts we'll get in the future, all of them will actually be cleared because of this Bhagavatam. That's how actually Srila Vyasadeva has actually written this particular scripture. Now, Srila Vyasadeva and the Acharyas have selflessly actually spent time only on this. They've actually transcended their bodily needs and who focus only on the self needs, and then not only their self, they are actually completely worried about how do I deliver all this fallen people in this world, right? All so-called rascals. Prabhupada used to call them rascals because rascal means a very dishonest person. They are not interested in taking to Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada had to trick them somehow or other so that they become more fortunate. You are tricking somebody to make them fortunate. So that's actually being a very selfless task. And Prabhupada actually and all the acharyas actually have given this knowledge to all of us, and we assimilate it. That means we actually take this book, we read it. It's not that Sunday to Sunday, 1 hour I'll hear and then I'll become perfect one day. It will not happen. As I said in my previous session, crash course is going to end you in crash. It might give you little knowledge here and there, and then with that, if you're going to actually go in and solve some problem, it's not going to help you. One has to actually be dedicated to this. If not right now, some point in our life, we need to plan and fully focus on reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and then assimilating it in our life, practicing it, and then giving it to others. But if you don't have a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, it's nice time to actually have a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam. And after assimilating that, share it with all others. Give it to everyone else. So make them fortunate. Your own family people, your relatives, your friends, whomever you think is someone who you like, give it to them. They may not like it, but you doing this activity will 100% make sure that Krishna feels very happy about you, that you have done what Krishna wants to do. So that's actually the attitude we should keep in mind, and then continue our life. So if you do that, we'll see the Lord one day, right? So this is actually what I had wanted to share. I hope actually I'm still on time. Yes, sure, I can take some questions. Yes, Prabhu, I'm done with my presentation. If there is, I just want to actually, okay, let me actually go back and then show what did we actually cover. Okay, so this is what we covered. Original personality of Godhead, that is Krishna, Etecham Shakala Pumsha. Benedictions of hearing the past tense, we missed that. So one shloka, the 29th shloka actually also mentions that if you hear the past tense of the Lord every day, like how we are hearing like this about the glories of the Lord every day, morning and evening, then all the material miseries, what small material miseries, your boss is actually bad, your spouse is actually a demon, all these things will not actually disturb us at all. We'll be completely focused on transcendence. Although we might actually have to be in the material world, we will not be disturbed by whatever is happening in this material world. So one becomes completely immunized with the miseries of the material world. So that benediction is actually given by Vasudev in the 29th shloka of that. So that is mentioned. Then glories of the Lord we saw, right? And then we saw about the Virat Purusha. Why is it actually mentioned as outside the list of incarnations? Because it's a material form. Then the last portion, we actually spoke about the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam, how it's actually Krishna himself. And then hearing is actually the best means. It's not like doing going and then lighting 100 lamps, or doing a yajna wherein you actually put everything into the fire and burn, or going into some 100 wells and then taking a bath, or getting into a river and then staying there. These are all nice activities because it purifies you, but it's not actually going to give you the goal. But hearing submissively from a pure devotee of the Lord and following the principles will actually will take us to perfection for sure. And then finally, the Srimad Bhagavatam is actually a gift that Vyasadeva actually given to all the humanity. So we should actually take it, keep it with us, assimilate it, and share it with everyone else. So that actually will give us all perfection. Hope. Okay, that's all I had, Prabhu. Rajesh Prabhu, anything? Let me see if there are any questions in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, please unmute yourself, Akshay Prabhu.
Yeah, anybody wants to ask questions?
Okay. Hare Krishna, I'm audible?
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, like I have one question. So nowadays in this material world, in Srimad Bhagavad Gita also and Bhagavatam also, like we have been hearing like our karma is everything, right?
Karma is everything. Okay.
So now, like nowadays in this world, like many people get harassed, whether it's mentally or physically. Okay, you know that women, like whether it's rape cases will be there, whether it's on men or women, nothing much. But is this also happened to them because of the previous past karma, or how is it?
Okay. So everything in this world actually happens as per karma. There's no doubt about it, because that's actually mentioned in the Shastras. Nobody actually is having any injustice done to anybody, right? However, why does these kind of activities take place? There are various reasons. It could be that this person actually did the activity in a previous life, so they're actually facing the result of that right now. Sometimes people say, right, the cows are getting killed because the cows could have been people in their past lives and they're actually getting killed right now. So these are a very, very complicated topic, and we don't have any visibility about what is happening really. But Kali Yuga is meant for actually suffering. It's not meant for actually sitting here and then solving any solution. The only thing that we can really do is actually take shelter of the Supreme Lord, and you get out of the cycle of birth and death. Don't try to solve the problems in this world. It cannot be solved. But all of these actually happening because of past karma, for sure. For pure devotee, sometimes actually they go to some kind of suffering. That suffering is actually the pastime of the Lord between that person and the Supreme Lord. It's a loving affection. By doing that activity, and when they're doing this activity um, by discussing, or between the Lord and the devotee, they're actually they are what do I say? I'm just thinking about the right word to use. It's basically for the glorification of the devotee. The devotee gets glorified so much, and everyone actually gets inspired. Wow, what a devotee person is, and then they get inspired to follow. So the Lord puts them into that kind of condition just for that sake. And when we actually when you become a devotee and you also go through some kind of suffering, it's for our purification. That's how we have to take, and then use that opportunity to become more Krishna conscious. Yeah, but nobody's actually having any injustice in this world, for sure. That much we should actually have faith on.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I see a few more questions, Prabhu. Should I actually take those questions? Because a lot of people have sent privately to my, I didn't see all these things. I'm going to see. Sorry, Mataji, Revati Mataji says, like, can you be a little slow? Because I have limited time and there's so much of topic on this. It's very difficult to actually go slow, Mataji. And this is not meant for beginners. Ideally speaking, this is meant for 16 rounders who actually has little bit understanding in Bhagavatam. And for them, this is actually a detailed study of Bhagavatam, basically getting all the acharyas commentary added to it. So go through the recording. If you have still doubts, let us know. We'll try to help you out. These slokas, I'll just cover this. Few more questions on this, Prabhu. Vijesh Prabhu, is it okay?
Yes, Prabhu, sure, please.
Okay. There's a question from Rajshekar Prabhu. Hare Krishna. These slokas in chapter 3 are told by whom? I'm asking from after reading the translation of Shloka 44. Okay, so these are all Sutta Goswami actually talking. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will actually know all these things. As I said earlier, don't think that in one session you learn everything. Please read the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's actually available free also. But if you actually have a copy of
I have a question. Prabhuji, the question is, I am reading the translation 44 from the book itself. O learned Brahmanas, when Sukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. Who heard him from? That gives me a perspective. It was told by somebody that he heard from Sukadeva Goswami.
Sutta Goswami.
But why should he say, Prabhuji, that learned Brahmanas, when Sukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention. Correct. Who heard him with rapt attention?
Sutta Goswami heard everything between Shukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, whatever they are discussing. And Sutta Goswami is actually telling these things to the Shaunakadi rishis, the learned Brahmanas who are sitting there and hearing from Sutta Goswami. In the Naimisharanya, they are all sitting and hearing, no? So he's telling them. I got
slightly confused with Sukadeva Goswami and Sutta Goswami. That is the problem.
Okay. Yeah, Shukadeva Goswami is the son. Yeah, Shukadeva Goswami is the son of Vyasadeva. Sutta Goswami is one of the devotees who heard from Shukadeva Goswami.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yes, Prabhu. Once again, let me see other questions. Okay. Oh, lots are coming. Okay. Dina Chaitan Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. By your mercy, blessed with Sri Krishna Amrita, Srila Prabhupada mentions about unconditional, transcendental, loving devotion service. Yeah. Okay, I hope it's not a question. Okay, then Padmanabh Achutadas, Hare Krishna. My question, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are incarnations of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Why pure devotees can attain only the stage of Brahma up to 78%. Okay. That's because the Lord is set it up like that. We are actually not, we are all Vibhinamshas. All the Jiva Tattvas are actually Vibhinamshas. Because of that, that's a you can actually go up to the stage of Brahma, because whereas Vishnu and Shiva are actually the Lord himself. And whenever it's said that Garbhodakaya Vishnu incarnates of Brahma, it is not true that all the time he incarnates. Sometimes he incarnates. Mostly it's a Jiva Tattva who takes the role of Brahma. And if you don't find anybody who is qualified to become Brahma, the Lord himself take the form of Brahma. Sometimes it's mentioned like that. That is why sometimes it's mentioned Garbhodakaya Vishnu becomes Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Not that all Brahmas actually are the Supreme Lord's incarnation. No. Okay. How do we understand exactly the expansion of Lord? How exactly an expansion happen? Again, all of us, most of us who have seen movies, we always get this misconception, like how they actually told one person comes from another person, like that. That we are all conditioned by that. It's very difficult to explain. I don't have experience about it. The Lord expands. That's all. That word is used. We have to understand it. I don't have the clarity on that question. How do we understand exactly the expansion of the Lord? How exactly an expansion happen? The Lord expands from one as an amsha. He actually expands from there. Yeah. Okay, Prabhuji, can you please tell me why 16 rounds of chanting? Any significance? Sometimes it is difficult to do 16 rounds, hence asking. Very, very good question, Emeraj Prabhu. It's definitely not an easy thing. In fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually said, if you don't chant 64 rounds, that if you're not a Lakpati, you don't chant 64 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, in such a place, I will not actually accept any bhoga. If you offer it to the Lord will not accept it. But however, our Srila Prabhupada, who's very merciful, understands our condition and has reduced it to 16 rounds. Even that 16 rounds is actually very, very, very difficult to do. When can we do it? When you become more sinless. So stop sinning. Automatically, this interest of chanting the holy name of the Lord will actually come. Why the significance? Is basically because by chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra, you will actually, so this number is set by the acharyas. Why did they set it up at that particular number? There are a lot of significance there about the primary name of the Lord, secondary name of the Lord. You don't have to get confused about all these things. If you are personally interested, I can explain to you. It's not for common audience. Understand that Prabhupada is asking us to chant minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra. If you can chant more, please chant. That's the expectancy, because Krishna mentioned Sattam Kirtayanto Mam. Not that 1 round, 2 round, 24 hours you chant my holy name. We are not yet ready. Somewhere we have to start. Some number we have to take in our life and then pick it up and then go up like that. Okay, so yeah, there's a quiz. So please take the quiz. Yes, Prabhu, I'm done with the chat questions. If anybody wants to actually ask a question, please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hare Krishna, if anyone wants to ask question, please unmute. You have the access to unmute.
Yeah, anybody actually has a specific question, you can either message me directly or ask the devotee boys who are actually organizing this program. They can actually answer your questions. And also my humble request, if you don't have a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, although it may be a little expensive, please actually get a Bhagavatam copy, because one of the devotees told me, if you ever get money, buy Srila Prabhupada books. They told me when I was doing the engineering. So they told me, ever you get a book, ever you get some money, please buy Srila Prabhupada books, because it stay with you all through your life. I would always repeat the same thing to all of you. Please buy Srila Prabhupada books. Keep a copy of Srila Prabhupada books and also distribute it to others, all of your friends.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Puji, for a wonderful lecture. I just wanted to ask you one thing. Like we all know that Srimad Bhagavatam, everybody should read every day. But practically we found it difficulty, and our mind keeps on telling that, okay, we can postpone it, we can read it after some time when we settle down in our job and all. So can you give some practical tips how to make it as a practical routine? Like how do we chant 16 rounds? No? Like how do we make it as a practical routine of reading Srimad Bhagavatam?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning days is always the case. There are two things I want to say. One is, Srila Prabhupada, whenever you ask, how do I do it, Prabhupada, he always used to say, just do it. Prabhupada never gave any, how do you go? He never encouraged, how do you do, and things like that. Just do it. What is the problem? He never used to actually give any tips and things like that. But these days, we have devotees asking, how do I do it? How do I do it? And things like that, which is a valid thing, right? The second aspect of how do I do is, what I personally follow is actually just like you brush your teeth, read Bhagavatam as a part of your routine. Get up early in the morning. When you get after brushing your teeth, you can read Bhagavatam or hear about holy name a little bit, 5-10 minutes, and then start chanting Hare Krishna mantra. If you take it as a routine, you would just do it. You will not understand many things at that point in time, but eventually after some time, it will become a practice. Everything comes by practice. In the beginning, you need to actually practice devotion service. Then you get Diksha, that is initiation. Then actually you do the devotional service to the Lord. Till you get initiated, actually devotion service is just practice. It is not even considered as official. You're just auditing a course, not even crediting a course. So one has to actually have that in mind, keep praying to the Lord. Easiest way to do is put a tick mark, just like you get up in the morning and brush your teeth. Do you really actually what do you call, think about should you brush your teeth or not? No, it's becoming a second nature. So make it a habit, in the sense, get up in the morning, you need to actually read Bhagavatam shloka. Today I'm going to, as soon as I wake up, brush your teeth, I'm going to read something. So you read one shloka every day. When you read one shloka every day, then it becomes an habit. That's how actually after some time you'll start getting attraction. It is mentioned that how do I identify an advanced devotee to a neophyte devotee? In a neophyte stage, the person who's actually trying to bring you to become a devotee, he has to call you up again and again. Prabhuji, there's a program here, there's actually a class here, can you attend, like that. So that's a neophyte stage. When you call up the person and say, Prabhuji, when is the next lecture? Can I attend the next lecture? Where is the next lecture? Where am I going to hear about Krishna? Then you're actually advanced. So that is actually the yardstick. You can measure yourself where you stand. So one has to come, force yourself, then you will actually come to that stage. They say, no, you fake it till you make it. So at least try whatever you can. You will come to the stage of practicing this like the spiritual masters. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful answer. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else? We are above 11:15, Vajesh Prabhu. I'm okay. It can take a few more questions. If nobody else has questions, they can drop off, I think. Or you wanted to tell something as such?
So anyone else has any questions, Mataji's or Prabhu's? So if no questions, then we will end for today. So we'd like to express our gratitude to His Grace Krpamaya Gauranga Prabhu for a wonderful class on how actually we should hear Bhagavatam with rapt attention, and how we should do it regularly. So we would actually continue to do that every Sundays as well, and of course all the other days also. Thank you very much. And one quick announcement for all the devotees is we have this wonderful opportunity. This is the book distribution month going on of what we do it all over the world. In this month of December, we actually try to distribute, as our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, we try to distribute as many Srila Prabhupada books as possible in this particular month. So we have actually, now it being locked down, we cannot physically go and distribute as much as possible as how we used to do previous years. So, but this year we are doing it online. The link for that is put up in the chat box. So it's called Shastradan. So we are actually encouraging people to come forward and donate, shastras. We approached one IT guy and one of our devotee friends, and he actually ended up donating 200 Bhagavad Gitas, which costs about like 150 each. That way, like, people are ready to go ahead and donate Bhagavad Gitas, and we are actually going to go to municipal schools and give out the Bhagavad Gitas for free because they cannot actually buy one. So this is one initiative what we are taking, and so there are different initiatives over here. So please visit this website called iskonsharipuram.co in Shastradan, and please send to as many colleagues or friends as possible of yours, and we can together see how we can actually bring up the distribution of Srila Prabhupada books, so that more and more people can actually get benefited by reading Prabhupada books, like all of us, how we are actually the relationship with Bhagavatam, as how Prabhu is taking such a wonderful class on it. So that way we would actually, it's a great fortune for us to give this knowledge also to others. So please take this wonderful opportunity to spread this message. And thank you very much. Please attend the quiz. The quiz link is put up in the Zoom chat as well, and I will be putting it in the WhatsApp group also. And any other queries or any thing with GOT space that we can improve in organizing this, please feel free to contact us or contact the admins in that group, and we will see how best we can serve you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we'll meet next Sunday, 10 a.m. same time.
Hare Krishna, Vajesh Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.